The Game Schooler podcast is a weekly audio show that educates new and experienced gamers about the awesomeness of tabletop gaming. In this week's episode, we'll cover 3 chapters, our Game of the Week, interview Andrew Bosley in the School of Gaming, and wrap it up by revealing our High 5 real-time games. Welcome to the Game Schooler podcast. I'm your host, Doug Kotecki, along with my co-host, the esteemed Dr. Michael McCabe. How's it going, Michael?
What's happening, Doug? How are you?
Oh, I'm pretty good. I guess you probably won't show up on the video very well, and the bandage that I have right now is much less than it was 2 days ago. That looked like I had an ice cream cone on my thumb, but I got into a pretty tricky game of click-clack lumberjack.
Doug, I didn't want to be the one to share your medical history.
Yeah.
But dear listeners, Doug basically chopped his thumb off Sunday.
Well, I wouldn't say that much.
Doug basically partially chopped his thumb off.
Kind of, yes.
Sunday.
My hand-eye coordination, not as good as I thought. So might be why I'm not very good at flicking games. So we tried to chop some firewood and did not go well. So,
well, good luck with the surgery tomorrow, Doug.
Yeah, things will be good. We'll be good.
I'll
be holding a meeple in no time.
There you go. That's exactly what I was going to say.
So, but as far as follow-up, I wanted to thank Manny Tremblay last week for taking the time to chat with us. We really appreciated that and getting a sneak peek behind the curtain on Slam Throne and some other goodies as well. So if you haven't heard that, go back and listen to it. A lot of you may be wondering, hey, I thought you guys...
I have some follow-up on that too, but go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Roth, the game WROTH. Well, Chip Theory went ahead and shipped that prior to the tariffs dropping. They're like, you know what? We're going to put it on the water. We're going to go. And didn't tell anybody. And by the time this episode airs, Doug, there's a very good chance that I will have Roth at my table. It's already arrived at Chip Theory headquarters much faster than what they thought, because they did their update like a week ahead of time to update the backers. And then the day after their update went out, a picture they posted on their Discord of Roth being delivered at their warehouse. And wouldn't you believe it, some of the backers were actually upset. I thought, you can't make everybody happy. So I thought that was interesting.
Why did this game show up ahead of schedule?
Yeah.
Monsters.
Company took a risk and thought, you know what? We think the tariffs are going to drop by the time the ships arrive. And because of that, that risk is paid off. So that's interesting. So Roth is here. I won't pressure you to play it. I'll play it solo. I'll recruit other humans to play it, but you're more than welcome to play Manny Tremblay's latest design if you'd ever like to, Doug, once that thumb fully heals.
Yeah, well, tomorrow I'll take a look at some videos of it online while my arm is incapacitated for the next 24 to 36 hours. So that should be fun. A lot of you tuning in last week were wondering, hey, I thought you guys were going to talk about the ACD Games Expo. Mm-hmm. And that is what we did have planned. However, kind of a couple things unfolded, which was, we were tired from the ACD Games Expo. And
tired. We weren't retired. We were very tired, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And the it was... I don't know. How would you describe it, Michael? It was different from years past. I think it was, with me going to Gamma this year, I felt like I had seen a lot of the games, so there wasn't as much of like, ooh, what was that? What was this? So a lot of them were kind of repeats for me.
Yeah, and then just the relationships that we have with other folks in the industry, there wasn't a whole lot of new there. Doug has a connection with the ACD Games Day through a retailer connection. And that, in the first few years of our podcast, that was really where we got to jump on the quote unquote convention games to see what was coming. And without that expo, certainly in year 1 and year 2, we probably wouldn't have been able to do the show. I mean, it really was that influential for our show. We'd get to see 30 or 40 titles and, filter some of those down and think, okay, here are the 12 to 15 that we want to cover before back to school time. And it's, things change. It's just not that way anymore.
Yeah, it's we spent a lot more time just talking to publishers that we know and visiting at their booth. It was great as far as being able to visit with some of the friends that we've made without the chaos of a Gen Con and things like that. So there was certainly a lot of relationship building and fellowship, but some of the games that they're pushing out are ones that we've maybe played, have heard about already, have passed through a filter, things like that. So it wasn't as newsworthy as it may have been in the past. And so we just kind of shrunk it down and decided, there's not enough for a full episode in here for us to just keep rambling on. Was there anything that was a highlight for you, Michael?
Ooh, I got to go to the Wayback Machine. Yeah, there were a few things that really stood out. How about you?
Yeah, I would say there was 2 games that I got to play at a kind of a preview night, and one of them was I don't even know the name of the first one. I'll have to look that up here. One of them was Zenith, which was nominated for a Kennerspiel des Jahres, I believe, which is from Playpunk Studios. And it was one that I had kind of dismissed, but as I was seeing it being played, I fell more in love with it as being one that I really wanted to look at. And I think it is one that, Michael, you will really like.
Yeah,
which is probably something that pushed me there. But the Queen Games one is about stars. Just 1 second. Doing my due diligence. Sort by release date. That is going to be not
a lot of Queen Games out there, Doug.
I'll say. Star Explorer. Okay, there it is. Star Explorer, which says it has a release date of 2024, but I'm assuming that's just in a German or European release at this point because it is a new, maybe not, English version. It was originally called Night Sky Explorers. Okay, so this is the second edition from Queen Games that's coming out. But anyway, it is a kind of a flip and write game in which you have a sky with different types of stars in it. There's like white, pink, blue, and yellow. They're all different shaped stars. And you are flipping over one of your tiles, and you have a set of tiles that are all constellations. And you are making those constellations with the portion of the night sky that's visible to you right there. And you score points based on what stars you connect together. So you might be getting rewarded for having yellow and pink stars connected. So you're trying to do that. And sometimes you might not be able to place a full constellation in. So you have to cross off a star that's like a -3 points that they're not negative points, but you get 3 points for every one that you haven't crossed off, basically. And then after that, everybody's drawing their constellation at the same time. And then you rotate the night sky and you get your next constellation, and you're trying to fill everything up. You get points for, getting towards the center of the sky, some for on the outer edge of the sky. But what was really unique about it is it used a white dry erase marker, which I saw on the back of the box. I'm like, how is this going to work out? And it was pretty cool to see it in action. And it's one that I think I will enjoy with my family
Yeah.
And it is what it is, and it's one that I'm fairly confident is just going to fly under the radar because it's Queen Games and nobody's going to think that much of it. But it's one that I think is like, yeah, it does. It's a family game. It does what it needs to do, and it's one that you wouldn't be surprised. Like, oh well, how is that on a Spiel des Jahres recommended list or something like that? Well, it's like one of those games that it's like, well, it doesn't have the acclaim, and so that's where it goes. But I'm intrigued to give it some more attention.
Awesome. Yeah, so I have two big takeaways from ACD Games Day, and I'll just throw them in here instead of creating a whole show around it. One is that hits create a market, and Flip 7 created a market for 2025 at the ACD Games Day. It came up in almost every session that I attended. People are looking for the next quote unquote Flip 7. And what I found ironic about that is, the game is around a year-ish old, but when it first came out, there was a lot of snark and cynicism around it because it claimed to be the greatest card game of all time. Well, guess what? It's nominated for a Spiel. As Andrew shared with us a few weeks ago, the marketing director from the app, it's going into, I think, Walmart. It's going to be on hanging tags in the little ear tag things in Walmart here coming up, and it's a huge success. And that I heard booth after booth after booth talk about Flip 7, Flip 7, and it wasn't the app that was talking about it. So that definitely was a buzz around the show. The other thing,
so what you're saying is,
go ahead,
is get ready for a glut of quick playing card games.
Yeah,
every publisher and everybody is going to try and be designing the next Flip 7 over the next year and a half
around a gimmick with a very bold claim on the box cover.
Yeah.
The other thing where I came to that, and I'll try to really boil this down into about 60 seconds, Doug, but is the game Root. Now, I love Root. However, I don't love teaching Root. It is a war game with cute animals, but every single role or faction plays differently. We talked about asynchronous gameplay a few weeks back in our School of Gaming, and there were two games from the ACD Games Day that really stood out to me as being like, ooh, I'm not sure that game would be here without Root. This is almost like a Root Lite, or for fans of Root who want to play Root, but with their game group or with their family. And one of those was Ahoy from Leader Games. They had the expansion out, so same publishing company, same artist, but different designer. And I'm really looking forward to diving into that game, to learning it, to playing it with you in our game group. That maybe we pull in one of our kids or something, but I'm looking forward to that. And then the last one for me, it was Mind Clash games that I was dismissive because I thought, oh, Mind Clash, it's going to be a 4.0. I have enough of those. But it was a very approachable two-player game, and that's Ironwood. And I actually played the demo from both sides. There's an Iron faction and a Wood faction.
He kept going back, folks.
Yeah, I
couldn't
did.
keep him away from that table.
I did. And I picked it up in a trade. It's sitting behind me here, right next to Shadows of Camelot. I already have it shelved, and I'm so happy about it. But I was just like, wow, two sides. They play very differently. It's a wonderful tug of war. I'll play that solo. I already know a family member I'm going to play it with. And then it's not a $300 game to be all in. No, it's a $50 game, that will stay in my shelf and in my collection in perpetuity. So just some of that, my big thought was that those hits create a market, right? You got Flip 7 that is now create a market, and that's not new. I mean, how many small box card games has Amigo been making that we've been talking about year after year?
Yeah.
And then that Root effect too of an asynchronous faction that you're going out and trying to, King of the Hill type game. So
yeah. Well, that leads into my what's awesome in gaming, and I think it's just ACD Games Day, or Games Expo as it's now called. It's just great to connect with people, to be around new games and old friends and things like that. So that's what's awesome for gaming for me this week. How about you, Michael?
Yeah, very similar. It was great to see, and there's a lot of podcasters out there. As we're going through the exhibit hall, I'm Danielle Reynolds, hey, love your podcast. Harrison, who and his co-host, who is the developer at Thunderworks Games. Now, hey, love your podcast. So people that I'm listening to weekly, running into them, the hobby's small that way. And although that is awesome, I have two other very quick things that are awesome. Playing games versus collecting games. This is something that has come into my feed a lot. It's something that some of our guests have talked about on our show as recent as last week with Manny Tremblay. And I got to play Space Base and Flip 7 and The Gang this past weekend with family, and I got to see people's faces light up. And I actually sent Space Base home with my brother-in-law and my nephew because you could just see the joy that the father and son were having with it. I was like, no, this belongs in your house. I'll, get it again in a trade.
Bad Company didn't get to the table?
It didn't, because they want to play Space Base. That's what they played a year ago. They're like, nope, we want to play that again. We don't have it. We want to play it. And boy, Flip 7 and The Gang, those are just a couple of stars right there. And I just really enjoy, and I love that about our Discord too, where somebody puts in what they're playing and then other people just encourage it. It's not a sense of, oh yeah, well, I've played this or I've played. It's not a competing to play something. It's really a playing to play. So I think that's awesome. And then lastly, look what was delivered.
Oh yeah,
Is that coming in the camera?
Paying off the post office again before I can.
Special delivery. Well, the designer dropped this in my mailbox while he was walking his dog. He said there was a special delivery in the mailbox. I got a little nervous because he's got a big dog. And when I opened the mailbox, fortunately, this was a special delivery. So really excited to get that out of the shrink after we're done recording here and look at the cards and see the final product of Doom Scroll. Congratulations to John Spike. It's available for pre-order over at GameStormer.edu. Really proud of him, man. Just, putting something out like that in the world can't be easy. Going to Kickstarter and going through all that. So good for him. And just want to share
that is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, John. All right. Our spotlight this week is kind of a dual one, and we'll explain that towards the end. But that is Bruges and Hamburg. The original came out in 2013 from Z-Man Games. Hamburg came out in 2022 from Queen Games. The designer is Stefan Feld, Michael Menzel for the original Bruges, and Christian Fiore for Hamburg. It's two to four players, about 60 minutes, and it is a light hobby game. In the bustling canals of the 15th century Bruges, merchants scheme and outshine their rivals in a city of wealth and intrigue. In Bruges, you wield multi-use cards to recruit influential citizens, build canals, and fend off disasters, all to claim the most prestige in this vibrant trade hub. The game unfolds over rounds, each with 4 phases. First, draw cards from 2 decks, choosing strategically since card colors are visible. Next, the players roll 5 dice, placing them from lowest to highest to determine threats. Dice showing 5 or 6 give colored threat markers to each player. Collect 3 of one color and you'll trigger disasters like floods or plagues. Then spend money to advance on the city council track for bonus prestige. And finally, you are going to play 1 card per turn. For each card played, you can choose 1 of 6 actions per card. Gain workers matching the card's color. Collect guilders, money based on the value of the matching colored dice. And discard threat marker of the matching color. Build a canal segment for big points. Construct a house to store citizens or recruit the card's character for special abilities. The catch: every card is a tactical puzzle. Use it for immediate resource or save it for long-term powers, all while managing threats and dice-driven randomness. The game ends when 1 card deck is exhausted and the players score prestige from canals, citizens, houses, reputation, and majority markers. The merchant with the most prestige wins. Can you navigate the canals of Bruges to build a merchant empire, or will your plans sink under a tide of bad luck?
Is that your description or Board Game Geek, Doug?
Oh, that is mine.
That's good, man. That's good.
So I love this game. I love Bruges.
I do too.
And some of you may be wondering why this is a spotlight and not a game of the week. Bruges is very hard to get and unavailable. It was reprinted as Hamburg by Queen Games under the guise of streamlining the rules, changing the art, and it is widely available. I have played both of them. We both have played both of them, and I still prefer Bruges. And one of those things that comes up, and this is not necessarily a segment of I want to put down Hamburg and say that Bruges is infinitely better like that. And I'm still curious of how I would feel if I came to Hamburg first. So they're essentially the same game. The one thing that I really don't like from the old version to the new version is that the old version has text written on the cards for the abilities of the characters. And you may be saying, well, Doug, that doesn't make it language independent and stuff like that. Well,
correct, but it makes it a lot quicker to play, Doug.
Correct, because...
Sorry to steal your thunder, man.
No, but in Hamburg, there are symbols, but the amount of time that we spent trying to figure out what those symbols meant, because every time you're drawing, every round, you're getting 5 new cards. So you literally have to look at the rule book 5 times to figure out what the ability is for every card before you can play it. And there's only one rule book, and everybody's passing it around because everybody needs to do the same thing. It is a known issue in the fact that Queen Games actually printed replacement cards that do have text on them that are also very difficult to get. So that's kind of where this whole thing stands, where it's a game that is very difficult to get, the Bruges version. I like the original artwork better. I like the gameplay of the first one better, but it is still available. And essentially, you are playing the same game. Don't get me wrong. It's not like it's, this is
the same game with one difference. And we could spend an entire episode saying if this is a minor difference or if this is a major difference. But if you're playing with your family and with kids, it's probably a minor difference. If you're playing with a very competitive game group, it could be a major difference. And that difference is in Bruges, when you're selecting the cards, you don't have a choice from which card you're going to select. You get the card that is facing you. Whereas in Hamburg,
well, there's just two stacks with colors on them that you can draw from. That's all you know.
That's all you know in Bruges. And in Hamburg, there are 5 stacks. Each of the houses have their own stack. So Bruges is much more of a tactical game of, what's the best one for me to take right now? And you could get stuck because the card that you need to put your person in isn't there. Whereas in Hamburg, you just take the card that you want to build your building. And it's not, but even in that, that's the second difference. You know, you're building buildings to put people in Bruges, which I really like. I like the personality in the game space. And in Hamburg, you're building a building to build a building. and on a really big, bright board, which I know some folks are going to like all those things. I prefer Bruges, and I wanted to prefer Hamburg, folks. I had the deluxe version. I was really excited to get to it. I reached out to the publisher and got the text cards because the previous cards didn't work for me with the colors. And Bruges is just one that has stayed in my collection. I do love the system, though, of the multi-use cards. And so if I'm at a convention or over at a buddy's house or a family member's house and they're like, hey, I got this game Hamburg, want to play? Absolutely. I love this game. And that's what I would say, and I would mean it. I would genuinely mean it. I would need a rule book in my lap the whole time, and I do. My experience, Bruges is an hour or less, and that's with a teach. My experience with Hamburg, I've not had a game in under 90 minutes, and I do think it's my head in the rule book. You know, maybe that's me, but I think that's also been a common.
Yeah, the iconography on that is not as intuitive as you'd think, and there's a lot of them. It's not like they're simple combinations. There are a lot of symbols and things where it's like it's written in code, right? And you have to it's not like there's 4 or 5 universal symbols. It's like plus this for every and symbol, symbol, symbol. And it's like, it could have just been written out in 2 sentences and the whole thing would be solved. So I agree. I still wonder, I'm curious how Hamburg would have landed for me if I didn't have Bruges or hadn't already played it. If it would take me the same way, or if my initial complaint would just be, there's so much iconography, I just keep stumbling over it. If that would still be the thing, or if I'd be like, this game is the greatest game ever.
My bold prediction for you is if you trimmed your collection down to about 10 to 15 games total, and if we didn't have the show, you'd probably be fine with Hamburg. But when you have as many games as we have and having the show where we're moving forward and moving back into a game, there is something about just picking Bruges off the shelf and being able to get it up and running and knowing that you can get it up and running versus Hamburg with having to learn the hieroglyphics every single time. I wish I could say that word right now, but I can't.
It's not written out for you.
I did want to give some love and some praise to Queen, though, and Steffenfeld with Hamburg in a different way. The deluxe production is gorgeous, and it includes some really slick expansions. So I know, Feld fans are their own group.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure that we mention that because Bruges has the one expansion, the City of Swafin, and it's very expensive and hard to track down as well.
Yeah, those are all included.
In the deluxe it is. It's not in the base.
Are you sure? I thought there are.
I'm not sure because I only had that deluxe.
Yeah, I thought a lot of
the gameplay was the same. It's just the component upgrades. You're probably right.
I thought there was quite a bit in there. Let me just see if there's anything.
The funny thing too, I can see myself.
It re-implements Bruges, including the City on the Zwin and Pets expansions and some new content.
Yeah,
with some moderate rules enhancements. So
all this being said, I'm going to talk out of the other end of my mouth. I'll give Hamburg another try. I absolutely will because I love the game, and if they come out with another implementation or version that might add text on the cards and streamline a few things of the streamlined version, I'll gladly give it another try.
Yeah. So that is our spotlight game this week. Bruges or Hamburg, depending on what you're able to get your hands on. Before we move on, I want to remind everybody to subscribe, watch, like the YouTube channel. Might be a little bit of a slowdown in content there while I am on the mend, but we will continue to pump that out once that changes. Spread the word about the podcast. Leave a review on the platform of your choice. We would love that if you did. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. Email at gameschooler.com. We'd love to hear from you. Now let's move on to the game of the week.
The game of the week. The game of the week is an in-depth look at a family-friendly game we think you should try if you get the chance. This week's game is 3 chapters, designed by Joe Hout and art by Jan Bintakis. The publisher is Amigo. Published by Amigo. Apologies, Amigo. It plays 2 to 6 players. This is a 2025 release. The play time is listed at 30 minutes. However, once you get a game down, it plays in about 15 to 20 minutes. Ages 10 plus. Doug, give us an overview of this family game.
Once upon a time, a mysterious fairy tale book whisked you into a world of enchanted characters and magical challenges. In 3 chapters, you and your fellow storytellers draft fairy tale companions, test their skills in a trick-taking duel, and weave their abilities into a triumphant tale to claim the most points. The game unfolds over 3 distinct chapters. In Chapter 1, draft your team. Choose 1 card from your hand and pass the rest clockwise, repeating until you've built a hand of 7 cards. The final card returns to the box unseen, adding a hint of mystery. In Chapter 2, you engage in trick-taking game with your drafted cards. Play 1 card at a time with the highest value winning the trick and earning a star worth 2 points. Then compare special abilities to snag extra points based on the cards played into each trick. You'll then put those cards in front of you, the cards that you play. And then in Chapter 3, you're going to evaluate all of the abilities of your drafted cards to score more points. Combine character abilities like pairing allies for bonuses to maximize your score. Stars are worth 2 points, hearts are worth 1 point, and every 2 gems is worth a point. The player who collects the most gems throughout the game earns a 4 bonus gems at the end. And the player with the most points across all chapters wins, their story etched in fairy tale legend. Can you craft the greatest fairy tale saga, or will your story unravel like a forgotten fable? So that is briefly how you play 3 chapters. It is a quick and easy game to get up and running, and I think it allows for some great tactical decisions throughout in those, certainly the drafting phase of, well, is this going to come back around? Should I grab this now? All of the things that come with drafting. And then you have that hand of cards and you're saying, should I play this one out now? Or maybe somebody took that ally that maybe I could play this card off of. Do I want to try and win the trick? Do I not care about that? And then again, while you're drafting, picking those things for endgame abilities and how the whole team that you've drafted is going to work together. What are some of the things you like, Michael?
Yeah, everything that you just said, and I'll add in that you can get stuck, quote unquote, with cards during the draft. Like, oh, what I really want Hansel for here? What am I going to do with him? He doesn't work with any of the other cards that I'm strategizing here. But then you can use those cards during the trick phase to score points. Yeah. And boy, that makes me feel smart, Doug. Where it's like, well, I didn't draft you for that reason, but I'm going to play it right now, and I'm going to walk home with 4 hearts. Yay, me. So no 2 games have played the same. And we've played a bunch of this together. And every game just plays so uniquely with, how the drafting and the trick taking works together. The last thing that I'll say that I really enjoy, the final scoring is fun. We've played some games recently where the end game scoring, whether it's harmonies or forest shuffle, I wouldn't define it as fun. It can be like, oh, I wish this was on Excel and would do some of this work for me. And in 3 chapters, that final scoring of, I've got 13, and I'm looking around the table, and now I've got 14, and I'm counting other people's hearts and stars. It's a really tight game at the end, and that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's interesting, the idea of, do I collect the matching pair for endgame scoring for myself, or hope that somebody else takes the partner to my card so I can score it during a trick? But even if they do, it's a situation like, if I have the beast and somebody else, I'm hoping somebody else took the beauty. But do I lead with the beast and throw that out there, hoping that the person that has the beauty actually wants to play that card now? Or if they don't really care about it? And it's interesting because it's a balance of whether you're going to try and win tricks or score combos. And those...
We're trying to do a little bit of both.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. It's very hard to completely spam one and win. You need to have a little bit of you probably have to have like a lead option and then a little bit of a secondary kicker of I'm going to try and win tricks, but I think I can win some extra points throughout the round during this. And trying to balance that. I have not discovered that any of the paths to victory are overpowered or one where it's like, oh yeah, every turn you need to do this. And I feel like we've played the game enough, and
we would have cracked that code by now.
And have tried different things where it's like, I've tried where I'm winning no tricks and done fine. I've tried where I want to win all the tricks and I've done fine.
Let me jump in here a little bit. The game, for a family weight game that has fairy tale imagery, has some wonderful card tropes. You just talked about, I've tried to win none of the tricks. There's a card in there. It's basically a Leicester card. So if I win none of the tricks, what do you get? 4 points?
Yeah, probably. Sounds about right.
And
one of the dwarves, I think.
Doug went all in on it to perfection. or so he thought. And then the person we were playing with, what did he
won a bunch of tricks,
won all the tricks and got the points for that, and connected just a couple of combos.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I really like that about 3 chapters, that it has some of the other, whether it's euchre or other card game trick taking, known mechanisms are in this game.
Yeah. And the trick taking aspect of and the in game and end game, right? It's like that thing to me is the crux of the game. Is am I trying to make points in game or out of or at the end of the game, and balancing that type of a thing. The only thing that's different than most trick taking games is that during the trick taking phase, you don't collect all of the cards. You're basically just putting your card out there and comparing the strength of everybody's card and activating the abilities, and then I take my card back into my own play area. Where in a lot of trick-taking games, whoever won the trick would kind of collect all of the cards that were used in that trick. That's the only difference from kind of a standard trick-taking game, as far as play-wise. But it also makes it easier for non-trick-taking people to think, to kind of understand.
On your cards. Are you scoring it now? Then you get a chance to score it at the end.
Yeah, let's compare, and then everybody take their card back, type of thing. So
the other piece that's just beautiful about it from the trick taking standpoint, there isn't perfect information. We each get a chance to dump cards at the end of the draft, and I think that's player independent. That depends on the number of players. So there's a couple of different ways that the draft plays out depending on the number of players. Well, at the player counts we've played at 2 and 3, we've always dumped cards at the end, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, it goes up to 6 players. So
yeah,
like in 6 players, I think you just do a straight regular draft. Everybody's getting 8 cards, and you're doing
at 6 players. The point I'm about to make, I think, still stands.
Okay.
And they can be fairy tale family weight trick takers, but you'll get people who math that whole thing out. If it's cards, they're going to treat it like blackjack. And they're going to be counting pluses and minuses, and they're going to know exactly what you have in your hand and what the other person has in their hand, and what their optimal play should be here, if they should lose this trick or win this trick. And I love, at the player counts that we've primarily played at 2 and 3, I love the sense that some of the cards in the draft get discarded. So I don't know what the other players have thrown away. And if I'm playing this at a full 6-player game hand, good luck going full Beautiful Mind Rain Man on it and figuring out where everything is sitting. So I like that. I think it's a good balancer for the sharks that are at the table with the casual gamers.
Well, and it's interesting because you're 100% right that it's like there is that level of mystery, and the way that it works is in a 2-player game, and in a 2-player game there's a couple of dummy ghost hands, and in a 3-player game, but you're essentially getting 8 cards and drafting 4 of them, and then getting another 8 cards and drafting some more of them as well. And so half of the hand is kind of discarded back in the box, and it's interesting because the goal of it, in my opinion, I think it's not necessarily to make information hidden. It's just to give people an opportunity with a smaller player count to potentially see the beast or some of the counters or the combos. Because if you just dealt it out straight, it's like, well, what good is the beast? Because the beauty may never come out. Just because there's a smaller player count. So but both of those are and both of them solve the same thing that you're talking about, is like it's hard to know who took what and when and what got thrown away as well.
Before we jump into skills, I have one question that I've been waiting to ask you for this segment, Doug. How do you think this game is going to go over with the hardcore trick-taking gamer community?
I don't see why it wouldn't be huge, because I feel like the card combo part is what brings in a different style of gamer. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I just know there have been so many trick takers over the last 3+ years, right? I've got a whole shelf of them behind me, and I just wonder how that group is going to, resonate with a very mainstream trick taker. I think it's a great game. I think Amigo has a hit on their hands. I'm really glad one of our houses already has a copy. I look forward to every house that I'm being in having a copy. This is a game I want to play over and over and over.
Well, and the casual gamer we played it with immediately was trying to purchase it after we played it
at the table.
Yeah,
or tried to.
And the production is simple. It works well. The artwork is fun. All of the abilities are self-explanatory. Why am I not saying that right? Did I say that right?
You got it. Hieroglyphics and self-explanatory.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, self-explanatory. I kept saying Terry. Woo. All right. But there's no need to consult the rules after initial teach, right? Once you're playing the game, everything is kind of clicking in. Anything to be aware of for you on this one, Michael?
No.
The only thing I have is that just being aware of this being a draft with trick taking is that sometimes things are going to work out and sometimes they won't. That's just the nature of the game. You can have the greatest plan and all of a sudden it unravels during the trick taking thing. You can take a whole bunch of high numbers and somehow you just kind of keep getting beat. You didn't think anybody took some of those. Well, surely nobody has the 49, and then they take your card with that. And so things sometimes just don't go according to plan. The game is quick enough and fast enough that it's one of those that you're like, let's do it again. But it's going to be that aspect is going to be in the game. So if you have younger ones that maybe get frustrated with that type of thing, I felt like we should discuss it. So
no, I'm glad you did.
How about skills, Michael?
Yeah, that leads into my first skill, and that's comprehension. The publisher suggests this game at a 10+. I agree. If you want the kiddo to be able to, read and play the game independently, I do think with an adult helper, especially a team game, the first few times through, you can go as low as 7 or 8 years old, certainly 8 or 9 if kiddos are able to read the text on the cards. Yeah. And that comes back to comprehending what is the impact of me winning this trick combined with the other cards that are out on the table, and really being able to see that in especially in a 3-player or higher game. In a 2-player game, if it's just, kid and adult, you're going to have that dummy player where you're kind of talking the game through anyway. But I think for younger gamers, comprehension is a skill that will be addressed in either a positive light or possibly even some frustration depending on your levels.
Yeah, this one is interesting for me because I feel like it's one of the rare games that does strategic thinking and tactical thinking really well simultaneously.
Yep.
And as strategic is kind of long-term strategy for accomplishing a goal. Tactical is what's best for me right now, right? Those are kind of the broad terms. But usually, based on the card that you draft first, is kind of gives you a direction on how you want to go for the whole game, right? Is like, I'm going for trick taking. I want to win tricks, or I want to do these combos. And it kind of gives you a long-term strategy. So if out of the first couple cards you decide, all right, mine is going to try and win points during tricks and at the end of the game, but not necessarily win tricks, it changes how you draft for the rest of the round. But once you get into that trick-taking part of the game, you need to pivot on, they threw out that card, so maybe now is a good time to play this card, but maybe I wasn't planning on that. So you kind of have to be on your toes. There's cards, for example, that will say, 1 heart for every monster that's in the trick. Well, if I'm the last person playing a card and everybody else threw out a monster, maybe that's a good time to throw that down and get three points, even though maybe I thought I could win a trick with that one or whatever. other plans you may have had for that card, or maybe I have a bunch of monsters in my hand, that's why I took it. But being able to play it at that opportune time, or say you lead with that card and you say, you put out the thing that says 1 heart for every monster. Well, then all of a sudden Michael's like, I don't know if I want to play a monster out and give him an extra heart if I don't need to. So I'm going to pivot to this direction, which then leads the next player to say, oh, they just threw out Gretel. I'm going to throw out Hansel now and score points off of that. So you have to.
That's that tactical right in there.
Tactical in that aspect, but your overarching planning of how you're getting your points and the combos at the end of the game are all strategic thinking. And so I think it's really unique and cool that it has both of those skills so well defined and easy to kind of pinpoint.
That was good. That was a good mini lesson, Doug. That was really good. Really, because that is the game right there. It's those two skills. I'm going to borrow another Kotechian skill, and that's resource management, a game that boosts a player's capacity to efficiently and effectively oversee available assets. But I want to approach it from this standpoint. We've talked about abilities and combos, but there's also a sense of winning the trick. You get 2 points. Yeah. Is that right?
2.
Each time you win a trick, you're going to get 2 points. And the game is tight on points. We've had winning games of 15, 16, 17 points. And so although it can feel like, oh man, do I want to use this card to win the trick and get the 2 points? Or do I want to keep this card to hopefully get more than 2 points on a later hand? Being able to manage your card for the bonuses that it has and also the trick-taking ability. I think that's the other... I'm running out of superlatives in this segment, but I do think that's the other engaging factor of this game is the actual trick-taking decision and that sense of agency of even sometimes not winning the trick, Doug. Like, I'm going to slide under and I'm going to let you win that one over there because I think I got a big payout coming. So
yeah. The last skill I've got is competition, and I think it shows up in a bunch of different areas. Certainly in the drafting. Every time we played this game, a card gets back around to one of the players and like, I can't believe you took that one. I didn't think anybody would take that, or something along those lines. And then there's the competing over the tricks and who's going to win that, or I lost the trick but I got 3 points because of this card, so I might as well have won the trick type of thing. And then as Michael said, the points are tight, so getting down towards the end and if you won every trick, that's 14 points. That's a solid score, not even considering any points that you've accrued during the game or with any combos you may have. So that tight competition is makes you feel like, almost always feels like you're in it, even if you weren't or you lost. And it's like, I lost by 3 points, but I still felt like I did good. I still felt like I was competitive, and it's one that you want to dive back into right afterwards.
Yeah, and on that, I think we only had one that was a runaway leader, and that I don't know if it was you or the other person we were playing with, but they just happened to win all the tricks and have all of the combos in all the tricks that they won, and at the end of the game. And even then, it was like 23 to 16 to 14. So even in a clear, decisive victory, it was still worth counting up at the end. Yeah, very competitive game.
All right, what are your final thoughts, Michael?
Oh, my final thoughts are in a game with a lot of combo. Let me try again. In an environment where there are a lot of card games competing to get the right combos to fire off, 3 Chapters does it better than anybody else. This is a game that the draft and trick-taking works together in an approachable and engaging way that makes me want to play it again and again.
Yeah, I think 3 Chapters feels like a classic already. It's easy to get up and running, and it's a game that folks will say again as soon as the game finishes. So that is our game of the week this week, 3 Chapters from Amigo.
The School of Gaming. In this school of gaming, we discuss concepts, keywords, etiquette, and helpful ideas in the world of gaming. This week, we are fortunate to interview artist and designer Andrew Bosley. Andrew, welcome to the Game Schooler podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so we are so excited to have you. Looks like Doug is just champing at the bit here. First question. Go ahead, Doug. I see you. Jump in.
Well, we are big fans. I was in prepping for the interview was looking through your accolades on Board Game Geek, and I'm like, I really like all of the art in all of these games, and different types of games. But I think one of the things that we like to do is, how did you first get involved in the gaming hobby, whether as a player or just as an artist?
Gosh, they're both different. So I got into the hobby as a gamer long time ago. I was making and playing weird games when I was a kid, just making up my own stuff. But I got into kind of our modern hobby gaming shortly after I got married, almost 25 years ago. I had some good friends that introduced us to the early stuff that everybody knows, like Settlers and Carcassonne and Puerto Rico and things like that. So I was playing lots of stuff really quite early, but it wasn't until really 6 or 7 years ago that I really started doing stuff in. Gosh, is it? Yeah, that's about right. Started doing stuff in board games career wise. I was working in video games as a concept artist for about 7 years, well, more than about 10-ish plus years, before a job came along to work on a board game. And it was kind of a one-off project in my mind, but exciting because I love board games. But I thought I would just jump right back into the next video game project after that. And then another one came, and then finally when Everdell came, that was the big change. And that with the success of that, which was wonderful, I've really just been working on board games ever since.
Awesome. How do you approach a new project? It's like every game is unique, and you said that Everdell was kind of a launching point to making that a more of a full-time thing. How does it, because I know a lot of artists have a style, and sometimes that style can be very repetitive, but I feel like yours seems to fit very well for the project at hand, as opposed to just like, this is my style and that's what I do. So how do you approach every new project based on, is it the theme or the mechanisms, or how that plays out?
That's a great question. I'm glad I fooled you and others into thinking that no, gosh, I mean, from my perspective, I mean, I don't want to, ruin the magic, but for me, it doesn't. I mean, I'm approaching each game and its theme in a unique way. I'm mostly thinking at the time, like I am not actively changing from my perspective, changing my style in any way at all.
Hmm.
It's just the way I would paint, uh, this content, this theme over a different theme. So it's not that I'm not purposely changing a style, but I am looking at the concept and the theme that's there and going, okay, how can I make this unique? Certainly, if it's anything that's related to other projects I'm working on, I'm thinking about uh, color schemes, and I'm thinking about other elements that can make it separate from things that people might be familiar with. 'Cause I don't want things to look the same for my client's sake and for my own. So it's when someone pitches a game concept to me, or like, hey, could you work on this? I think the very first thing I'm thinking about is how can I make it different than stuff I've done before. But it's usually from an artistic perspective. It's usually, I mean, like I was saying, I'm thinking about colors. I'm thinking about maybe if one game I'm doing things like presenting characters, really flat on like a portrait. Maybe I'll try to do something a little bit different next time. So, every time I present a character, it's not always the same. I'm sometimes successful at that, sometimes I'm not. When it, but I get really excited about every project. Everybody, when clients come and go, hey, I've got this idea. Usually they're already doing the work of trying to make sure that this isn't a second Everdell or another Mission Red Planet or another Tapestry. They're thinking about those things and wanting, especially knowing that I'm going to be jumping in as the artist. So I'm trying to think of what other things I'm playing around with when I first start. I mean, another part I try with my clients to look at the big picture of the whole game, what the whole table presence is, not just the individual illustrations. It's funny because that was not something I did with Everdell. I worked with a fantastic art director, Dan May, who already had a plan for everything, and so I really was just coming in and, okay, here's this space, put some artwork in this space. But for most of the projects after that, I've tried, if I can, or if I felt like there was a need, I would kind of go, hey, let's look at this as a whole, and what would the whole game look like, with all the pieces out, so that we made sure everything as a whole was very harmonious. But then I would then jump into the illustrations directly, and okay, I've got 30 cards I need to illustrate. Let's get started.
Awesome.
It is awesome. I have a couple of questions for you, Andrew. Doug is an artist, whether he likes to admit it or not. I am married to an art teacher, and I am absolutely horrible in art. I'm trying, growth mindset, but if I had to go on a Likert scale, and if the Likert scale had terrible on one end and Andrew Bosley on the other, like I would be that picture of terrible. But so I'm very curious about awards and being honored in the art community. And Board Game Geek, you have been honored in the Honored Art tab 16 times. And those games that you listed earlier, they're not just awesome games. You're the artist on them. And so in the industry of the hobby, how important is it to be honored and recognized? Or is there a point in time where you're just, nope, I'm an established artist, I'm going to take on this project and go to work? Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
That's a really big question. I mean, are you talking about personally or professionally? Like, what's the
yes,
all of the above? Okay. Well, first off, I didn't even know about that big Board Game Geek honored list. That is new news to me, which is a bit strange. Hard for me.
So if you look at your profile at the bottom, it has an honored art tab, and it will list all your awards that you've won from all the different worldwide awards. Everything from 2024 Golden Geek Best Board Game Artwork and Presentation for Unconscious Mind. Then it will have your other entries are on there as well. So
okay, well that'll
you are an honored artist, Andrew.
Congratulations. Happy to inform you. That's what this whole call was about. We're going to set up a special ceremony for you.
No, but I'm curious about that. And, we have a podcast show. It's been running for 5 years. And so, when those awards come out, you always wait and say, like, ooh, are we going to be nominated? Ooh, so what's it like as an artist? Is that something that you pay attention to or not really? You're just kind of on to the next project. I guess that's really my question.
It's funny because I'm much less aware of the things that are happening than most people would imagine. I like I said, I didn't know about most of that stuff. So no, I am not thinking about them a lot. I'm not thinking about them really much at all, because I'm also not for a time I was not on social media at all, and I recently.
Congratulations!
Thank you. It's a very good thing. I have recently steered back into it with a purposeful way to not let it take over my life, hopefully, but but use it as needed for my business. But so for a long time, for about 3 years, when I was not engaged and not participating much, I certainly wouldn't see things. So I wouldn't know, and I don't know I know many big, names like BGG or Dice Tower. If they say something, if there's a thing, sometimes that will get, passed down to me. I'll hear about it through the grapevine, but I'm not even aware when those things are happening. So I don't even know when to look for them, or what's going on. So I'm not thinking about them. I know for myself, I have a very difficult time with, uh, with notoriety of any type. It's very, it sounds so stupid. It's stupid to be like, oh, this is weird, or this is annoying. Like, I'm sure that it's a wonderful blessing, I appreciate it so much because it makes my career possible. Um, but I don't. But like, I go to conventions, and that's where I notice that people like my work, and there's some attention to that, and I have a fan base and things like that. And sometimes that's a little hard for me. So in general, summing all that up, I'm not thinking about it that much. Sometimes it's actually a little hard for me, because I'm in it, it's there's not only imposter syndrome going on all the time. Every artist has it, and it is 100% real. There is no amount of people going, "Hey, I'm so excited." I'm literally thinking when that's going on is they haven't seen this artwork yet, and that's if they saw that artwork, they'd be like, "This guy's a hack." Like, it literally is like that all the time. Um, so
So you have that going on, and you struggle with praise almost at the same time. Is that kind of what you're saying?
a little bit, because it's very unreal to me. I mean, I'm literally in my studio all day long. I'm not interacting with anybody. I mean, except my family. I'm fortunate to live, I work from home, and so, but in my office, it's just me, and I'm not seeing that sort of stuff. So when I go somewhere and I'm suddenly around people that, recognize my artwork and go, "Hey, this is really, really cool." I mean, like, mentally, I know that it's there, and that's again why I'm grateful that I have the work that I do. But that other side of it is just unusual, because every time I go to a convention, it's kind of like a shock
Hmm.
that it's actually there, because in my day to day, all I'm doing is just working and trying to meet deadlines and hope I can pay for food for my family, and that's really about all my day consists of. And then, and
Well,
so anyway,
Yeah.
it's strange. Yes, it's dumb to say it,
No,
but
that's
well,
great insight.
I
it's
think sometimes
uncomfortable.
when you have a natural talent, and you're gifted at things, that the act of utilizing that talent seems so second nature, that to the people with talent, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. You're just like, I'm just kind of doing what I do. And like you said, you go to your office, you work, from home, and it's like, I'm just drawing pictures, I'm painting pictures. And it's like, and because when folks have talent, it's hard to be like, not everybody has that. So it doesn't seem that special to the people with talent. It isn't until the other people see it that it becomes, oh wow, that's really remarkable. But that's just something you live with, right? And I'm not saying that you don't work hard at it. That's not the point. But those things come natural to people, no matter what it is. Like, some people design games. It's like, oh, God, for me to design a game like that, I'd have to spend 20 years. And it's like, oh, no, I just thought about it on a coffee napkin type of
Yeah.
thing. And I think that's where, when you say artists have imposter syndrome, I think that's where it starts, because it is something that's ingrained in you that you almost take for granted.
Well,
There are skills that I have that I take for granted,
yeah.
that you're just like, well, what's so special about that? And it isn't until you're like, yeah, not everybody can do that. That's what's special about it. Is, I think, where that kind of comes in at.
Well, and also, like, we're also hyper aware of our flaws, and the
Hmm.
things that are mistakes. Like, I look at my artwork, and I mean, I can certainly appreciate pieces that I've made that I really, really love. And most of the time, I don't stop working on an illustration until I'm happy with it. So in the end, overall, I'm fine. But it's never going to be perfect, and I'm certainly hyper aware of those things. My wife
Yeah.
is a great piano player, and she'll, she accompanies often choirs and plays the organ at our church, and she'll come back, she's like, I can't believe I made all these mistakes. And I'm like, nobody heard any of that. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
hear it, nobody else heard it. And but that's what artists go through too. I will say, just a comment about like social media and how difficult it is. Not on, like all of those other things, like, but social media plays a part. I'm not. This is going to sound like a complaint, but this is why social media is so frustrating at times. Is, you know, I will have, the selfish part of me is going, okay, there's, okay, I guess people like my work. Okay, that's really, really nice. Wouldn't it be so neat if that actually was reflected in like my following or something? Like, because it's
Yeah.
not. Like, I mean, it's not
Yeah.
like, I mean, I look at, you know, if a 2-year-old, scribbles on a post-it note consistently for 3 years, they're going to have 1 million followers. You know, and that's it. Or spilled Cheerios and milk on a post-it note, one day every year for 2 years, they'll have 1 million followers, most likely. But I don't have anything like that. So when that's what social media is so hard, is I'm one of those that's very susceptible to that. And I think many artists are. We put something out there and we go, man, I hope everybody's going to like this thing. And then for whatever reason, one day you get this many likes, and then the next day you get half that many likes, and you're like, dang, I put so much more into this
Mm.
one than to this one. And why is, all this work doesn't, it's silly, that we have to be so conscious of that stuff. And so there's lots of things that make that side of things hard. Maybe that's easier for other people, and but I don't even want to do any of it. Like, I just want to paint, and that's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, what's awesome in gaming?
What is awesome in gaming? Uh, Currently, or just awesome about gaming?
We ask all of our interviewees on the show, anyone who comes on the show, that's one of our go-to questions.
What's
So
awesome
you
in gaming?
take it however you'd like to take it.
I think what's awesome in board gaming is the ability to interact with people. Um, that's why I love being in this industry as opposed to video games, which I do enjoy video games myself, but I love this industry for the way it brings people together. I think another interesting thing in board gaming is how we can tell really interesting stories interactively. We can build worlds. I mean, it's a medium that is so underappreciated. Within our community, I think we appreciate it, but outside of our core, among the billions who have no idea that, there's more
Muggles.
than 5 board games in the world.
Doug refers to those people as muggles.
The muggles. There we go. Yeah. You know, the idea of a board game being as like my wife I love her to death, and she does play board games. We play a lot of board games together, but she doesn't have the addiction to board games that lots of people do, including myself. And she'll be like, I can't, how can there be this many board games in the world? And I'm like, how can there be this many books in the world? How can there be this many movies in the world? Because a board game is just as, in my mind, can be just as exciting and interesting and tell a cool story. But every time you read it, every time you play it, it's different, as opposed to a book or a movie, which will stay the same every time.
Yeah.
So that's,
Every game's like a sequel.
yeah.
It's like it has parts of the original, but it may not play the exact same way.
Yeah, and each one's memorable. I mean, I can go back to a game of Scythe, or I can go to a game of River of Gold, and go, oh man, you remember that time when that happened? Or even simpler, like I have a Discord channel with friends and fans that are on there, and we play a lot of stuff on BGA, and there's four of us that are always playing Burgle Bros, like nonstop. Like for probably the last 2 years, we have had the same four of us. Every time we end, we start a new one.
Rematch.
Rematch every single time. And it's like, who would think that something like that could be so replayable and so interesting? And we will just laugh after we just joke at how horrible we are after we, can't pass the most basic level. And then we'll jump, we'll get a few in a row and we'll think we're real cocky and get real cocky. And then we lose again. And it's just so much fun.
So what is your favorite part about being an artist for board games? Like what's the best part about that job?
I think this is more of a. I hope this makes sense. I like being able to tackle a whole project. After working for so long in video games, and I loved my work in video games. I loved what I did there. It was difficult to be just a tiny piece in a bigger picture, a much bigger picture. That's very rewarding often. But there were several times when I was working, I worked for Ubisoft, and they were a great company, and the specific studio I was at was a wonderful company with wonderful people. But I ran into many times when I would run into a wall where I had an idea for something, and the answer was, "That's not your job. You can't do that." Um, and I can't do everything, even in board games. But when it comes to a board game, the scale of the project is small enough that most of the time I can go, okay, I'll be your visual guy. I'll be the art director. I'll be the, I'll do the illustrations, but let me help you with all these other things. And so the whole project, when it comes to it visually, it's not all mine. I don't often do graphic design, and graphic designers are the real unsung heroes of board game art. Um, but when I get to, hold a board game, in my hands after it's been printed, it's like, okay, I can be so proud of this entire thing visually because it was something I got to have an impact on every step of it. Whereas in other media, other industries and other things, that's not always the case.
So when you were doing video game concept art, is that a situation where okay, here's a design for a monster or a thing like that, and then it's like, okay, that looks great, Andrew. Now we're going to send it over to modeling and all of the other different departments, and then by the time it gets spit out in the final project, it's like, oh, I can see that there was a whole bunch of different choices and changes that were made in the process, and then you see the final work, and you're like, okay, I see where my work went into there, but you don't have the control throughout the whole process. Am I explaining that right, or is that not how it worked?
That's actually not so much. You would think that would happen all the time, but usually modelers are very like most of the modelers I've ever worked with are wanting to be very faithful to the design, maybe more so than you like they'll be just like, I see this funny bump in this, silhouette of something. Is that something? No, that was just me making a mistake, in my painting. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just ignore that, but they'll be like, no, we want to make sure we get this exactly right. It's not that. I mean, when it comes to like where I was running into walls, it was more like I had a really interesting story idea. And I was just thinking, hey, this could be like a really cool moment in this game. Could we do this? Or these lines of games we make normally in this studio, they don't perhaps have their story is not their strongest thing, or maybe it's not connected to the art as well as it could be.
Mm.
Could I work with the writer on here, and could I kind of be a person that could make sure that we're helping each other out more? And it would be like, nah, that, a couple times it'd be like, sure, go ahead and talk to that person. And me and the writer together, we're like, we're going to make the coolest thing in the world, like together, and then it would be like, that's all shelved, that's all put to the side because that wasn't, really what we had in mind. We have a formula, we have a process that we go through, and that really doesn't fit in it. So, It was more stuff like when it came to actually getting the job done as it's listed or as it's supposed to be. The studio is really good at making that happen. If you wanted to do anything that was a little bit, if I ever had a game idea, that was way off the table.
Mhm.
Like you'd have to have been
You weren't allowed
hired.
to bring that to the table, huh?
No, that's someone else's whole other job, and we can't
Hmm.
take that job away from somebody. And I understand that too, but it was just more. I liked to see. I liked to just be involved in a little bit more, and some people that's not even a desire at all.
So how does
So
that play out in the board game world? Like, what are examples of how that you're allowed and able to do that in board games as opposed to your previous job?
um, I mean, I'm still just doing the same. I mean, I'm still isn't, and I don't have the desire here to do anything beyond the art of most of this most of the time. But it's more like what I was mentioned before. Like it's very easy if I chose to, if a client comes to me and they say, okay, the very first thing I mean, when I'm budgeting or estimating a cost for a project, I'm going, okay, how many cards are there going to be? How many unique illustrations? Here's the cover, here's all this sort of stuff. There might be a deck of cards, for this part of the gameplay, and there's a deck of cards over here for this type of gameplay. It would be very easy, and my clients would not really, many of my clients would not really care if I just jumped in and go, all right, I'm working on these cards right now. Here are these cool things. These all look fine, but I did not consider at all what this other deck is for. And do they play off artistically, visually? Do they go well together? I could really easily just go focus straight in on on component A, make sure that looks really, really nice. Then I forget about component A because I'm done and I move over to component B and I just work on making sure that looks really, really cool. But by itself, in isolation, I could do that and most of my clients would be fine
Hmm.
with that. But then months go by and I'm looking at everything as a whole and I'm like, this could have been a little bit better if we had actually done some planning, the visual side of it, planning a little bit more. And so I'm usually trying to be a little more proactive with that. Whereas, in a video game setting, that would be a whole other job. That would be somebody else's. I mean, not in every in smaller companies you can wear multiple hats. So
Yeah.
in this case, in board games I get to be a little bit more proactive. I want to be proud of the whole thing. Often most of the things that are visual are credited to me, rightly or wrong, are credited to the illustrator. And so I just want to make sure it's the best it can be, and I'm given the opportunity to do that, to be a little bit more proactive.
So it's a little bit more of a receptive,
Yes.
that those things aren't immediately dismissed. There's more of a
Um,
collaborative effort, and everybody's on the same page. Like, I don't care where the idea came from. If it makes the game better,
yes.
we're all about it, as opposed to, no, that's Bill's job and Bill needs to do it, and I don't care if Bill's idea is garbage. It still
Yeah.
needs to be Bill, right?
Exactly. That's a good typical video game uh, process. Um, in board games, as you guys know, I mean, perhaps half of my clients are first time publishers or just one, maybe not that, maybe half my publishers are just one person and
Yeah.
they're the designer and the publisher and they are definitely not an artist and they know that. And so they go, Andrew, like this looks like junk. My prototype is horrible looking. It's a great game, but this is a mess here. Fix it. And I'm working with a client right now who is just wonderful. I have lots of wonderful clients, but I'm working with one client right now who has I've sent over stuff already. I'm giving them ideas and sending things over, and there has not been a single revision that has needed to be made because they're literally just going, Andrew, we want you to visually make this game. Whatever you want, just make this game. And I'm like, I mean, that's wonderful. And the selfish side of me is like, sweet, I don't have to do any revisions. Okay. And my ego, Oh, everything is awesome. As soon as the first thing I send is great.
Yeah, put that
But
and that.
but there is also a side of the collaborative process that is nice. Like if there's, I want to know that they're very happy, or I met the needs of what they, I have other clients that all again very wonderful, but we'll have that back and forth a little bit more, and there's a little bit more of a feeling of accomplishment when we've actually met the need, and it's clear that that wasn't easy to get to. If it's just Andrew, make whatever you want. Um, so anyway, that going back to what we were saying, like yes, of course, the board game industry is extremely receptive to ideas. Sometimes, completely hands off, uh, and that can be fun too. But sometimes that's not maybe the optimal scenario.
Yeah, it is something. I mean, we've talked to a bunch of different designers, and we know publishers and things like that. And to hear what you're describing is that commitment to make the game better. That then when a game comes out and it just gets trashed for whatever reason, and people are like, all right, maybe the game didn't work for you, but to wholeheartedly kind of dismiss the amount of work and effort that goes into these productions and the revisions. I think anybody that's ever tried to design a game by themselves, and you do your first prototype and it crumples in your hand of like, well, this does not work on turn one like I thought it would
Yeah.
be. And the amount of revisions to go and make that work is it can be really frustrating. So I appreciate you talking about the kind of the behind the scenes work and the amount of effort that goes into that, because I think it is something. And to your point, the graphic designers that are putting icons in the corner of cards and how they're easy to read and where they should be for the game and stuff like that as unsung heroes of the industry. So I appreciate you highlighting that, because it is something that Michael and I like to champion, is the work that goes on behind the scenes that people don't even realize is happening. They just get the product in the end, and it's like, liked it, didn't like it, and put
Yeah.
their rating on BGG. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Yeah. And I want to use that to just segue into a different set of questions here. Maybe it's one question, but recently on our Discord, we've heard a lot about your smoking bones. And I'm wondering if you could tell us about, your design work and possibly even provide a project update that will keep at least one of our listeners and enthusiastic Discord people will have a big smile on their face when they just hear more about you and that universe and that world that you've been building.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, so the Smoking Bones world has been something I've been working on for about 10 years. It's been a very big labor of love for a very, very long time. I mean, just a quick rundown of kind of what the plan is, what is happening, where the state of things right now. I'm working on a series of books that I call the Smoking Bones Saga. They are a story, a full story, and the Smoking Bones is about a travel company that takes people to the magical places of the world. Those magical places are disappearing, and the captain of the Smoking Bones Travel Company, Red Jones, is trying to find out why and to solve that. And there are problems and pirates and monsters and things that get in the way and or make things difficult. And anyway, adventure ensues. The books are one part of that. That's something that is an ongoing thing. But the more exciting for this audience and is the collaboration that's been established in partnership with Stonemaier Games. So the plan is to do, I think it's been fully revealed, 3 board games set in the Smoking Bones world, published by Stonemaier. I can't give details on who the designers are for those games, and probably not any real specific details on where we are at, but I can say that all games are being actively developed as we speak. Artwork is being made right now. I'm obviously maybe not obviously. I'm taking each game at one at a time, because the the thing about the games and the books is that they will be chronologically in order. They will be work together. So the plan, the ambition, it's a big ambitious project, is to release book one, then game one, then book two, then game two, then book three, game three, book four as the end of this series. And if you read, play all of those in order, the storyline follows a chronological order. You could play the games without ever touching the books, and it'll be just as much fun. You could read the books without ever playing the games, and it'll be just as much. You get the full story. But each of those things play off each other. So this is basically just, other than, my client work is stuff I'm doing all day, all the time. But more and more, I'm carving out more and more time to put real heavy duty time into the Smoking Bones. Some of the things that have been delivered already, I created a side book, a travel guide, recently, the Smoking Bones travel guide, and kickstarted that in August last year. That is being fulfilled right now. People are getting their notifications today. But that is a separate thing, that is part of the world, but is something separate, but a great introduction into the world and who Red Jones is and who the Smoking Bones are. What are these magical places like? Anyway, there's it's a big world. I have so much concept art, so much illustration that I've done that I haven't been able to share, so much story that I'm excited to tell people about and to give to people, but it's just got to be paced in a certain way. And
no, we get that. And,
well, I'm sold.
Yeah. And are you a part of the design work as well? Or it sounded like there are designers, but that's kind of your own IP. How's that work?
I am not designing for any of the games. I am just I am creating the world. I am making sure that the lore is everything is correct. And then of course creating the artwork. I'm doing the graphic design and the art direction for everything. Which is all of that is a big task. But when it comes to the design, no, there are specific individuals that are designing each of those games, and
That's great.
The designs for them are going to be completely different standalone games, not expansions of each other. But they will be independent gaming experiences. So yes, I'm working with the designers constantly to just make sure, okay, this has to work, this is how the gameplay works. Let me make sure the art is supporting that 100%. Talking about the unsung heroes and the graphic design and layout, like that takes the most time to really do it purposefully. That takes so much time. And so I'm working on that. That's up front. That's the most important work before I even do illustration, like real proper illustrations for the game. So it's busy.
That's awesome.
Lot of stuff.
Just so I have it right. Sorry. So are you authoring the books, or are the books authored? But so you're doing the books, and are they going to be like the hardcover books that I see on the All Play website in front of me today in the project that's being fulfilled? So there'll be 3 books in the series. There's a prologue essentially that's out right now where people can learn about Red Jones. You can go check that out. It looks like I got there from your website, Andrew Bosley Art. It took me to an All Play site. So I'm guessing that's how our listeners could go and see the book and potentially even get it. And there'll be 3 more that are coming. You're the artist and the author of the books. And then it sounds like between now and 2032-ish, there'll be 3 board games as well, right? So almost like a calyx full of smoking bones.
Yes, I would say, just a correction, my website is bosleyart.com, so that
Thank you.
that would get people there. And then yes, Allplay is currently sells the prologue, which I think is a good way of describing it. There will be 4 books in total in the saga, not including the prologue, and 3 games. And yes, I'm going to say definitively right now that all 3 games will be out before 2032.
All right.
You heard it here
exclusive.
first, folks.
Wait a second. Now I'm doing the math. That's actually not as far away as I was
No,
thinking.
it's not. Not in board game world.
Not in the board game world, but no, I think I could say that.
It's on the water.
I'm going to say it. All 3 games by 2032. Yes. Done.
That's
All
great.
right. So outside of that, is there anything else you'd want our listeners to know about, check up on, or anything you're excited to share before we let you go?
I got one more question then too, Doug.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah,
well, then
sorry.
you ask your other question, then we'll close it out.
All right. And this is a big one, but you've been a leader for me on this, and I've referenced it on the show. So I'm just going to say, going back to 2022, what's the deal with AI?
Oh, wow. That's a simple question.
Close it out with a softball, Michael. Way to go.
Sorry, I had to ask it. We couldn't have him on the show and not ask it. It's not like he's doing interviews every single week. I mean, we got a big time person on the show here, Doug. Had to ask it.
Well, gosh, where to start? Yeah, it's potentially. I mean, I tend to be an optimistic person. This gets me close to pretty pessimistic, devastating effect on things. To some degree, it's interesting. About a year ago, I would say that this was, or 6 months ago, I would probably say that this was it's still possible to be like culture shattering artistic work, the artistic structure of the world, like shattering that. Yeah, I still actually think that that's possible. Because I know people who have chosen to not become artists because of AI, and it makes complete sense. If you want a career in art, gosh, I don't even know if I could right now. I hate to say this in front of people who, to an audience that might include artists that would want to be in art, that are aspiring artists, but it's hard to recommend becoming an artist at this point, because, and I know that that's happening, and I know that will continue to happen, and gosh, how can that not have a horrible impact on society as a whole? But the reality, I assume the reality is perhaps less devastating than that. I right now am, and it, I certainly want to make sure I please my clients, and I champion my clients for choosing to use real artists instead of AI, but that won't be forever. Like, the more and more of our industry will be just fine with it. More and more publishers will this is something that I know is happening right now, is nobody's going, here is this game designed by this person, and the art, on BGG, it doesn't say artist AI or artist Mid-Journey. They'll credit somebody, and so it looks like it was made by an artist, but it was really made by AI. This will become so much more common practice everywhere. And in the end, we'll have less artists in the world, and there just won't be any incentive for people to do it. So it's tough. What I'm doing right now, in addition to championing my clients, is trying to really lean into my fan base, the people who, and that I think is where artists need to be looking to for the future. And it's so fun because that would have been the opposite for me a couple years ago. A person who is not a fan of social media, not a fan of hey, pushing myself out and look at what I have made. I'm generally not a fan of that sort of thing. However, fans are never going to replace their artists with AI.
They're going to keep coming back to you.
Yeah, they're going
to go. Let's get that website one more time then, just so our people that are listening. Let's hear from your ears, from the artist's mouth to our ears and our listeners' ears. What's your website, Andrew?
It is bosleyart.com.
And you've got two fans here, and so I know at some point you'll see some of my money come in instead of running out and consuming another board game. I'll be supporting you as an artist directly, certainly before 2032. I can promise you that.
Well, that would be very kind.
Doug,
I would say, well, because of that, because it is those fans. Like, I of course want to keep as many clients as I possibly can, but I've been trying to build, besides my website, like I'm trying to build a really neat community of people. So I have a Discord as well. My website is the avenue for my newsletter, which goes out once a month, and that's great. But we have a really neat community. I have a Wits End Discord. Wits End is my personal brand, so that's what Smoking Bones is going to be published through. And I have a Wits End Patreon. And between those two things, we have a really large community of people that are just engaging. We're playing games together. We're sharing art together. I'm giving sneak peeks to Smoking Bones stuff. I have publishers on there, and we're interacting and engaging with people. So my website is a great way for people to just see kind of a broad thing of what I'm doing. But if anybody has a more interest in seeing some deeper things, or really kind of seeing what's going on, my Discord and Patreon, I would really send people those directions, because that's where, like, those four, the three friends I'm playing Burgle Bros together, constantly. We're going to be playing Burgle Bros in person at Gen Con this year, and we did last year too. And I met them all through my Discord.
It's awesome.
And so it's stuff like that's what I really want to engage more with more people these days, and not shouting out to masses, though I'll end up doing that, via Instagram or other things like that. But when people come to the Discord or on the Patreon, that's when I really get to know people, and those are some real relationships. So I would love to encourage people to go that direction.
Awesome. Well, thank you for spending some time with us, Andrew. We really appreciate it, and sharing some insight into the business of the hobby, the connections of the hobby, and of course AI and its impact. So thank you so much for coming on to the show today. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys. It's an honor.
Every week, Michael and I highlight a list of games we want to play, enjoy, or spread the word about. And everybody loves lists. And this week, we're talking about our favorite real-time games, which is usually, I'm not a fan of real-time games, but I was surprised by how quickly this list came together for me.
Yeah.
Was it a hard list for you, Michael?
No, it wasn't. And it was, upon first glance, I thought, I don't have many of those. And then when you get into it with timers and simultaneous actions and simultaneous action selection, it's like, ooh, I had to make some hard cuts.
All right, well.
Yeah.
Let's see what you got at 5.
Number 5, from the good Dr. Reiner Knizia, 2022 Ninja. On your turn, you're going to chuck 9 die. You throw them into this nice little ring where ninjas are competing. And then you need to optimize your score by grabbing specific dice out of there. And what's memorable about this game, and what I really enjoy about it, is how the owner of the sword or the shuriken gets points. The owner of the sword or the shuriken steals points. So you're looking for you're only locked in on swords if the sword is your turn. And so it's like one of those classic super mean Knizia mechanisms that's a ton of fun to play, at least with my own kids, because it's just brutal. It's a 10-minute game. It's different. It's quirky. It's weird. There's no cards. You're just chucking dice. And I have to share with you what Tom Vassell at the Dice Tower said, okay? So if you want to know more about Ninja Master, just check out the 4-minute video that Tom Vassell did. It's linked to this games page. He does a great job teaching the game in the first 2 minutes. Great job. Teaches the whole thing, start to finish in 2 minutes. And then he says, and I quote, got the giggles, sorry. Of the 5 games in the Fun Brick series, this is easily, and I mean easily, the worst. I'm giving this a 3 out of 10. So if you want to know more about why Tom hates it, it's really random. You could see it's a small box. It's one that we've had a lot of fun, especially my 9-year-old and I have played since the game came out. Just chucking dice and getting some points. Really easy to teach too, and a fun little real-time game. Ninja Master from Reiner Knizia.
All right. I'm assuming your rating is higher than a 3.
Much higher than a 3. But I can see why it would completely bounce off some people. I mean, especially if you're not into playing games like that with your own kids. Like a lot of the games that are on my list, I can see why they don't work for people.
Yeah. Well, my number 5, I'm keeping with a theme, and that is 5-Minute Marvel. 5 for 5. 5-Minute Marvel.
Yeah.
From Spin Master designer Connor Reed, came out in 2018. I like the Marvel edition a little bit better than the 5-Minute Dungeon. They share a lot of the same mechanisms, but I feel like 5-Minute Marvel is just a little bit more streamlined and plays a little smoother, especially with younger kids. It seemed like that one went better for me. And in it, you're just playing down cards to defeat villains and trying to do it as fast as possible. You need to get through all of the villains and the main boss in 5 minutes. And it's a great experience. So that is my number 5, 5-Minute Marvel.
Cool. Number 4 is one that I think we both really enjoy. It was a game of the week back in episode 191. Checking Doug's face to see if we have crossover. Doesn't appear that we do, and that's Spotlight. Spotlight is a game that is designed by Halmer Hawk and Lorenzo Silva, art by Julia Gihini, and published by Horrible Guild. It is a fantastic real-time game in which you're making your way around the board, and you have this little spotlight that kind of it's a Where's Waldo that's covered up, and you have this spotlight thing in your hand that's going to show you where pieces are at on the board, and you're trying to count like the number of wizards and things like that, and you're trying to get it right. If you want to know more, go check out episode 191. It's one that I want to get back to the table and play again, which is a big theme of a lot of the games that are on my list. They're just a ton of fun to play. This one plays in 15 minutes, ages 6+. Plays up to 5 players and is truly a ton of fun, and one I'm going to be looking to pick up if I come across it at Gen Con when I'm there. So that's my number 4 is Spotlight.
Yeah, I missed that one. That should be on my list, but it's not. Yeah. So honorable mention. My number 4
that
came
might be
out...
the best praise that I get, folks. That's good right there. That's high praise.
My number 4 is from 1903.
Oh yes.
Care to take a guess on what this might be, Michael? The current publisher is Hasbro. The designers are Edgar Casey, Harry Gavitt, and George S. Parker. And that game is Pit, which if you have ever played Pit, it's as close as you can get to being on the stock market of the old school stock market of yelling and shouting, trying to make trades and deals in order to get your set complete. I got pigs. I got horses. Who wants horses? I got too many horses. And it is just chaotic fun. And I just love that feeling of, I need to move these. I need to move these. And everybody's like, nobody wants those. Stop talking about them. And then eventually it's like, who said they had cows? I need cows now. And like the changing of how that happens and goes from, I don't need that, please stop talking, to I desperately need that trade now. Where is it at? And it's like, well, I moved on from it. I got something else now. Like everybody is their own get rich quick salesman. Like, well, I've got a new deal now. I'm working on something else. I thought you were the pig man. No, I'm not the pig man. I'm the cow man now. I've got a new business. So that's my number 4 Pit from 1903. Probably the oldest one on the list.
That's awesome. Doug, I'm going to ask you to participate in my number 3. All right. But without snark, I'm going to need your professional judgment here. Okay.
Judgment.
So 2017 release, 9 alien races, wheel, deal, plan, and develop to be the best leader of the galaxy. 4 to 9 players, 2 to 3 hours, ages 14+. What do you notice about Sidreal Confluence? the copy that I'm holding up. What do you notice?
It is new in shrink, Michael.
And has been for over a year. And I have the sticker on it from the store that I bought it in case I ever choose to do a quote-unquote return in a year or two. I love Sidereal Confluence. It's one that I just don't know when I'm going to get it played, Doug. It's 2 to 3 hours. It's a hobby game, but in terms of exchange, you've got like 2 different phases. One where you're just exchanging goods with people at the table like you just talked about in Pit. And then another one where you're firing off the cards that are in front of you to get points. Just a fantastic game, but it's heavy. It's hobby. It's long. So if I don't get it played before a year from now, I'll probably end up trading it or else walking it back into Noble Knight and see if they'll take it. That's why I have this sticker on it. But one that I just had one of those experiences at a convention, sitting down and playing it and seeing the magic of a game.
Yeah.
And I can see why, people who've played it talk about it. But that 4-player minimum, that's brutal, Douglas. That's tough.
Yeah, that's hard.
I played with 6 and it was fun and fine, so.
Yeah. Try it at 9. Yeah, don't talk to me unless you've tried it at 9, Michael. That's where the game really shines.
Well,
with 9 players.
To do that, add the bifurcated expansion and go to work.
My number 3 is a game that I think probably annoys a lot of people, and it requires a very specific group of people that would like to play it, and that is Magic Maze, which came out in 2017 from Sit Down and designer Casper Lapp. In Magic Maze, you are trying to, I believe the original story is break into a fantasy mall and steal goods and get out, possibly. But the way that it works is that nobody controls a single player. Everybody controls everybody, I believe. But you're the designated mover in a certain direction. So I may be the person that can move characters left. Michael might be the guy that can move them right and up and down and different things like that. And so you're trying to meet certain objectives. There's different objectives and scenarios that you're trying to accomplish, where you need to accomplish things in certain orders and get people to certain destinations or get out of their exit. And you set the timer and you start moving, and it starts out pretty simple enough, like, oh, of course, this guy goes here, and then that guy goes there. And you're trying to do this on like a couple characters. Eventually it gets to a point where it's like, I need Michael to move that guy up before I can move him left. And there's this little red kind of marker, a totem in the center of the table that you can just you can't talk to each other. It's all silent, but you can grab that totem and kind of put it in front of Michael and tap it down. And Michael's looking at you like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, and then you're like, and you smash the thing on the table. And then you're like, oh, duh, yeah, no, that guy over there, I got to do that. And then you do that. And sometimes it's also embarrassing because you may be smashing that totem down and realize, oh, wait, no, you're like, you put it in front of somebody. You put it in front of somebody, and then Michael immediately puts it back up and puts it down in front of me. And then I'm like, oh, wait, yeah, no, I'm the guy that needs to open that door. My bad. Something like that. So I can see where people get frustrated, but the experiences I've had with it has been really fun. That is Magic Maze.
Awesome. Yeah, I just have one play of that from a few years back. That's a good one. That is a good one. It is cooperative, correct? If I'm recalling correctly? Yep. All right. Number 2 for me is Nerds. I've talked about it before on the show. Got 48 log plays of it. It's competitive solitaire, and it is a family favorite in my household. Not going to say a whole lot more than that. Back to you for number 2.
My number 2 is Galaxy Trucker 2nd Edition, which was published in 2021 by CGE and designer
First edition's garbage or what?
I have not played the first edition, but I believe that the artwork is better and more suitable to my tastes in the second edition, Michael. Yeah, that first edition's unplayable. Don't even bother. But in Galaxy Trucker, you are trying to build a ship. Everybody's trying to build their ship at the same time, not knowing kind of what obstacles you're going to run into, but you're trying to equip your ship in a way that you think you can handle the most tragedy as the game unfolds. So you build this immaculate ship laid out to all your personal specifications in real time. And then you go through this deck of cards that tells you what is happening. And it's like, oh, well, there's an asteroid field. That part of my ship is blown off, and I'm going to lose some cargo there. And now my weapons aren't going how they should be. And it's just kind of fun to see it unfold. And the real-time aspect of building the ship and trying to do it quickly, but also effectively is, I think, what really makes it work for me. So that's my number 2, Galaxy Trucker.
Awesome. Number 1 for me was a game of the week. Is your number 1 a previous game of the week?
It is not.
All right. Back in episode 85, we talked about Tapple. Tapple is, published by the Op. The designer is a MPD partnership, so some toy company. But Tapple, you're getting a card such as pizza toppings. There's a timer in the middle, and you got to press down the
M for mushroom
proper letters. All right, A for anchovies.
C for cheese.
All right, P for pepperoni.
S for sausage.
And so then, Doug's going to get that card because he was the last one to give a successful clue, I believe is the way that Tapple goes.
Yeah. Or you would just be knocked out if there were more players.
Well, yeah, it's awesome. Tapple's a ton of fun. Tapple's a great little game. Make sure you keep batteries around so you can play it. Episode 85 if you want to hear more. That's my number 1 real-time game.
All right, my number 1 real-time game, one of the things I really enjoy about the real-time games that I like is, as referenced in Pitt, is I like games that make me feel like I'm doing whatever job or profession I'm supposed to be doing or represented in the game. And no game, I think, does that better for me than Walkstar, which came out in 2010 from Fowers Games and designer Tim Fowers. In this, you are running a Chinese restaurant. You have to acquire goods, the ingredients. You're putting them in your little wok, and then you are trying to create dishes. And it feels like it's like you flip the card over and it's like order up, and you're like, okay, and you're spending dice, and it's like, all right, I need to use some of this beef. The beef is gone. The onions are going down. Somebody's like, oh, I've got some onions. I can replenish those. And you're doing that, and you get this real atmosphere of being in a high pressure kitchen, working together as a team. There's been several editions of this. I think it might be the 3rd edition is the one that's available now. You can probably get it on FowersGames.com. But just a great little game that I fell in love with, Walkstar. As far as honorable mentions, Unlock is obviously very high for me as a real-time game. I feel like I put it on too many lists, so I just wanted to put it in the honorable mentions. And I'm excited to dive into Ready, Set, Bet, but I have not played that, which probably would be, assuming everything goes to plan, would be high on my list. How about you, Michael?
Yeah, I've got a bunch, Doug. I have, I'll just run through them. Mountains of Madness, 2017. Kiro, 2018. Telestrations, 2009. Spot It, which I absolutely hate, but my family loves, so I thought I had to put it on this list, but I realized it's my list, not theirs, 2009, and Cuphead. So yeah, there's just, this is a mechanism and genre of games where there's a lot of good ones, and I think we've played a bunch of them because so many of them are family friendly. Yeah,
and it's a fine line between where it becomes fun and stressful too when you're playing real-time games or speed games. And I'm not really sure if there's a big difference between those. If there's a difference between how fast can you do something compared to doing it in real time, I don't know. But sometimes, depending on the game, they can border on the stressful side, which is why I think some people may shy away from them. So let us know in the Discord what kind of real-time games you enjoy playing, which ones we missed. I always love hearing that or seeing those on the YouTube comments and just like, oh, okay, I should give that one a try, or I didn't even realize that was in that category, things like that. So share with us there, comments or in the Discord. We'd love to hear from you. Subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on X at GameSchoolerU. Again, if you can subscribe and like our videos on YouTube, we really appreciate that. It helps out us a lot. Our Discord, gameschooler.com/Discord, is a great place to be. I want to thank Andrew Bosley for taking the time out to chat with us this week. And next week, I believe we're going to be talking about Castle Combo. So thank you so much for spending the last hour or so with us. We truly appreciate it.
And also one other thank you to Stefan in our Discord for setting us up with Andrew Bosley. So we really do appreciate it when folks reach out and get those interviews scheduled for us. So get out there and keep gaming.